The last few years has been scary. I mean, we went from, you could always do something. It's getting harder and harder to make a living, that's for sure.
Well, we're lobster fishermen. The lobsters run our lives. I've seen it from you don't have nothing that you grub and work and to rags to riches and back to rags again.
I found out that 80% of our seafood is imported, and 50% of that is farm raised.
When I started, there was 3 80-foot boats working in Booth Bay Harbor here, a couple 65-foot boats, and spin a decline to there's no boats.
You know, there's a lot worse places than this. Still a way to scrape by here, but that's what it is, it's scraping by.
You know, there's a ton of people that are self-employed and they work off the land, hunting and fishing, and that's how they survive, how they exist. And it'll be a sad day when that is gone. It'll be a sad day.
The Cod Academy really was a product of in part, my personal frustration with the fact that nobody was doing much to stimulate aquaculture development along the coast. Well, Maine is unusual. We have a very diverse set of species that we grow here. Salmon, mussels and oysters, and halibut. So we have been looking for a number of years for another species that would make sense for Maine, a species that's local, that's not an exotic or introduced species, a species that there's a natural market for in New England on the East Coast, and codfish really has come to the fore. I had been involved in a program in Norway that was a program that was government sponsored, that was training herring fishermen who had been displaced out of a fishery because the fishery had collapsed, and was training them to become salmon farmers. Many of the guys who went through that program have now been very successful and have emerged as kind of the world leaders in salmon farming around the world, not just Norway, but other countries as well. So we approached NOAA Fisheries and pitched the idea to them and said, look, we don't know if this will work in this country. We have no idea whether it's something that will work given the fishing community that we have, given the set of circumstances we have in Maine, but we'd like to give it a shot. And NOAA, to their credit, said, interesting idea, let's try it. We'll do it at a very modest scale. And that was really the genesis of the Cod Academy.
The CCAR is an applied R&D facility for aquaculture. So it's a mixture of a place that can do research and a place that incubates businesses that are interested in developing their products or processes in Maine. The development of cod aquaculture, the technology, the know-how for rearing cod goes back 100 years. But the tipping point, the point at which it became commercially interesting, was really when the cod stocks, collapsed worldwide through overfishing. And the depletion of those stocks and the continuing demand in the marketplace meant that maybe we could use some of the infrastructure, the know-how, the technology, the existing workforce and so on, and apply that to cod. And then more recently, Great Bay Aquaculture developing the first US-based cod farm in Sorrento and Frenchman Bay, which is very close to us, very close to the CCAR.
Recruitment was an interesting process for us. We published some articles in some of the fishing press. We had some community meetings where we explained the program. We went to the Maine Fishermen's Forum and had a seminar there on it. And I want to start with just one message, a very simple one, and that is that aquaculture is not the silver bullet. I don't want anybody to leave this room feeling like Aquaculture is the silver bullet, which is going to make everything good. But if it is the right fit for you, and if you begin down that road and begin to explore it as a tool, at least in my experience, it's been one that has helped people maintain their foothold on working waterfronts.
A friend of mine called me up and asked me, you know, if I'd be interested in going to attend a meeting, because it sounded like, you know, a way to bring jobs into the area. Commercial lobster fisherman. I got in it when I was 12. The guy that gave me my license said to hold on to it because they weren't going to be available forever, so I held on to it and just slowly built my way up to a respectable gang and a decent boat. Catch has definitely increased, but with the cost of expenses and fuel and bait and stuff like that, it's getting to be more of a burden to try to make a living. Got a beautiful wife of 17 years and 4 healthy children. I'd like to be able to set them up with something eventually where they wouldn't have to wonder what to do in the future. Something that was more sustainable and a little less physical. So I've always open to new jobs and ideas, and I thought, why not put one day a week in to see where it leads me.
We're looking for students with large boat fishing experience and financial strength, a commitment to learning.
We partnered with Coastal Enterprises Incorporated so that they could look at the people who were applying for the Cod Academy. One of the conditions of getting into the Cod Academy was that you would personally be able to have the resources to be able to finance half of a first couple of years of operation.
Carl's a third-generation lobster fisherman. This is my harbor, this is where I grew up. I was reading in the Fisherman's Voice. The university was going to be having a program called the Cod Academy to teach somebody how to grow fish in a pen. And I thought that, well, geez, that's a great idea, you know. We haven't been able to go fishing for fish for years, you know, there hasn't been, you know, since we wiped them out long ago. So I went up to Seacar and talked to Nick Brown one day, and he told me to go get in touch with Clayton Coffin. He was a fellow that run Great Bay, and he's a pretty nice fella, and go talk to him about it. So I went to see Clayton and ultimately took a job with him, you know, figuring what's the best way to learn how to grow codfish than to go grow codfish. The future is leaning towards fish farming. People don't like change. And you old people around that have been in this mode for decades, they don't want to change, you know. They don't want to see that lifestyle change. Ultimately, it will. People get born every day and they die every day, and that's where things change.
It's optimum for cod, particularly down east. We obviously have a strong maritime heritage, strong markets for cod. There's new markets for cod.
People were skeptical about a program that was free, that was going to give them so much training and take so much time to train them, and that they didn't have to pay for. They kind of felt like it was, you know, not a real deal or something. And then as we began to kind of talk in more detail about what the program would require in terms of time commitment and also in terms of your ability to finance a farm, that sorted through a lot of people, and we ended up with a much smaller pool of people that actually made it through and were accepted to the academy. The Cod Academy consisted of a series of classes. Each class was about a day, so it was about a half a day of theoretical work and a half a day of applied hands-on work. It has a huge net underneath it, and Bill Sr. and Bill Jr. Were both from a fishing background. Father had been in fishing for a while, got out of fishing, went into the Postal Service, and then came back to be a Sturman for his son.
I would like to help him out and maybe make a family business out of it. I mean, he has 4 children, and you know, if we could keep things in the family, I think that would be a good opportunity for everybody.
During the wintertime, it's exactly the opposite.
Carl had a lot of the hands-on already because he worked on the cod farm.
And
And then there was Sewell Maddox, interesting guy, a lot of big boat offshore experience on the West Coast and the East Coast. Did a lot of homework before he came into the Cod Academy.
I've been in fishing all my life, and I have a clothing store and have a little bit of real estate here in Booth Bay Harbor, and kind of lived the tourism trade here in the summer, and saw the opportunity came along for the Cod Academy.
The course indicates that they're going to show you what financially, how it works and what happens. I think at the end of the course, I'll be better educated to see what we would like to do with it.
They've got an optimal set of temperature, of salinity, or of whatever it is, and when they're in that optimal set, then they have the luxury of putting energy into growth. You as a farmer want that to happen. You want them to grow. We taught them a lot on fish health, fish physiology, marine operations, mooring, how you install nets, business management, marketing as well. They got some marketing exposure.
That was a lot to take in, but because I hadn't been to school since I graduated 20 years ago, so the good thing is we got all those, everything was printed off and copied.
I think one of the things that really surprised us as instructors was as much reading material as we threw at them. They actually read it, and then they came back in the next class and they asked questions about their reading, and that impressed us all, I think.
Still have threads on both sides, and the threads still look good, but the pin is a lot smaller.
It was quite an effort. That was a day a week that I had to take off, every week. The Academy was more valuable by learning the people and meeting the people that we have in the industry. Because ultimately that's what the whole goal of the thing is to build an industry.
In my mind as a farmer, your responsibilities are, you have a bunch of them. You've got responsibilities to your animals, your husbandry, your stewardship responsibilities there. You've got some responsibilities to your community, to how you fit your farm into your community, how you resolve potential conflicts.
It was diverse, and they brought in a lot of good people. Nick, that runs the facility right next door, we learned about the importance of having to have future generations for growth rates to improve that.
I'm sure you've all gutted a fish before.
Nick was really vital in bringing a more academic perspective to the class. Nick and his team also brought to the table teaching the students a lot about how you raise juvenile fish and what goes on in the hatchery, and the relationship between what goes on in the hatchery and how those fish perform out on the farm once they're stocked out on the farm. And that's a really important thing for farmers to understand.
Bill, I don't want you to do the same thing you did last time we came out here, okay? Well, you remember.
I remember throwing feed in the boat, that's all.
So the hands-on part of the Academy was really centered around the Great Bay Aquaculture of Maine cod farm. And we took the students to that farm to actually work on the farm and do operations on the farm that a cod farmer would normally do.
If you don't feed hard enough, what will happen? The biggest fish will eat and the smaller ones will not get it.
He said when we started, he says, you're feeding too much. Slow down.
Don't listen to him. Come on now.
So Clayton Coffin, the farm manager down at the cod farm, was really critical in teaching these guys the kinds of normal operations you would do on a cod farm.
You're spilling it there, Bill.
How much is it a pound?
70 cents a pound.
There you go.
It's a lot more exciting to actually be hands-on and doing stuff rather than being in a classroom. And
You mean my lectures aren't interesting and exciting? Come on!
well, I like the lectures, but it's been a while since I've been in school, and I've always been on the water my whole life, and love being out there, and the days fly by when you get going on stuff.
So today here at Great Bay Aquaculture, the farm hands are teaching the students how to harvest codfish. And so what they're doing is they're seining up the cage. You can see the yellow cork line here is the top of the seine. The students are pulling the bottom rope of the seine up, and they're going to make a big, almost like a bowl-shaped seine here. Then they'll lower a fish pump down into the seine and pump the fish onto the harvest vessel.
If we're grading, we pump them onto the grading table and sort through them and put small ones one way and large ones another into respective pens. And if we're harvesting, we put them aboard the boat.
Now tag them, put them, box them, and then we head to our landing where we're gonna offload them and put them right on the back of a truck where they'll go to Boston. Okay. Bye. See you next week.
So today the students are presenting their class projects to the examiners. There'll be 5 examiners on the panel. The students will present a business plan, a biosecurity plan, and a full lease application. These were the 3 projects they had to complete in order to complete the academy, as well as answering questions from the examiners about more general areas that they've learned about.
Our lease application is set for cod, halibut, mussels, and seaweed. We're going to start with one 50-meter cage and raise 50,000 fingerlings from 20 grams to ranging to a size up to 1.5 kilos. It is our understanding that the only codfish farm existing in Maine is supplying less than the live market of cod demands.
Do you have any estimate of the amount of fish you'd need to have to saturate it?
No, I don't. I mean, you know, to be perfectly frank with you.
Where's that second page going to come from?
That was what we were. There are presently, to our understanding,
What is
some
the
grants.
price wholesale for your fish?
We used $4 a pound.
You can make it
50
happen
cents.
It's good
by
that
just
you
being
know
yourself and telling
who
your
to call
story.
and that you're different receiving states.
that you're trying to.
The amount
So it wouldn't be as
Dealers
big
will
as
give
an
you a price
expense as
range
the initial one.
Between X and Y. Or
You guys are good when we ask questions, and you're good at countering those questions. The softest spot I found was on your marketing. So you're really looking to borrow $250. That's a big ask. $250.
what collateral are you putting up for against the loan?
You're looking for land and property and that type of stuff.
Everything
You
we
can't
got.
volunteer Bill Juniors. You can't. You're
I
firstborn, you
can't.
can't.
I was thinking kids.
You also can't pledge your pension in most cases.
Right, I
So-
wouldn't do that.
I hope that you both feel that it doesn't necessarily end here. Certainly from my point of view, you know, I'm very willing to continue to try and help you guys do what you want to do, and take me up on that.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, like Ruth was saying, I think we need to do a lot more investigating.
Right.
And this time of year is just not the time of year to be doing that.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, to see us get into the aquaculture business, I mean, we're willing to work hard and to make it go, but as far as a financial investment at this point. I don't believe either myself or my son are able to, are willing to put our land and assets on the line for that.
So we're at the end of the Cod Academy, and the plan is just to pilot scale startup farms, cod farms. I don't think, as the plan was presented, to have H&G as a market just doesn't work. There's nothing else I can say about that. I think George knows that. And how much the live market can take, or how big that market is, that remains to be seen. Let me just start with the numbers here. If you're going to go to one pen of equipment, it would be about 35,000. 7 will put you up in this range. This is the 60,000 fish here at 48, 9 months, and you're going to go from 60,000 fish to 2 slots of 19. This is a cumulative loss so far, and this is not counting the cost of the pens. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Well, you know what you've done. You've made a great case for Nick's cod breeding program, because all of those things, you know, the deformity rate, the growth rate, you know, survival, getting a fish that's more fit for your farm is what it's.
That's what's going to make that work.
Salmon farming works in Maine, in cages, you know, with salmon feed. Then cod farming is going to work in Maine, in cages with cod feed.
Right.
You know what? I'm giving you the money if you want it.
What do you mean?
Because you talk numbers and you convince me with your spreadsheet expertise that you really have a very clear grasp on all this.
It's more than a little risky. And you're completely dependent on the live market. And if, in fact, this Cod Academy was started to help grow this industry, there needs to be some help.
If you look at other countries that have grown a new species sector, they have not done that without significant government investment.
What kind of deal would make it more appealing to you?
So you need to have the government be on board with supply the fish, take the fish cost to zero. I don't mind risk or borrowing money. Nothing's free.
So you want a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
You need a long-term commitment for grants to support
The fingerlings and the feed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take,
Oh yes, I'm going to keep on investigating it and looking at the numbers a little closer and get a little bit more confidence. And then maybe we'll try something at the level when the confidence gets up there a little better.
Great deal of credit for that.
You know, with the business plan, I'm not really really into it, you know, in coming up with something that I really believe firmly that's going to work and handing it over to somebody to make public information. That really doesn't work for me.
Well, like I said, if we choose to do it down the road, and it'll be, you know, it's all about finances now. Be able to afford to get that first batch of fish out, and then if I had to do a fish, I'd definitely do the cod, I think.
I think it is viable. I think it will. It's going to come along at some point, but it takes a tremendous amount of capital to get started and get the infrastructure for it to be successful. Well, that remains to be seen what's going to happen. I'm just plugging away. I don't think it's something you rush into.
The whole purpose of the Academy was to give the students the skills and the training so that they could make their own decisions about whether or not a cod farm was the right thing for them. This coming year, those of them who want to move forward, they'll be given one cage and they'll be given half the costs of the juveniles and the feed for the production run of that first few years of farming. We'll see how they do. I think the students really were amazing. There were differences between them. Some students approach things from one angle, other students from a different angle, but by and large, they committed a tremendous amount of time and energy to learning at the Academy, and I think they deserve a lot of credit.